What's going on, people? This is Sean from Room 9 Podcast. This coming up episode, I sit down with two wonderful gentlemen who get to share their story and their struggles and the family issues and everything else that comes along with the wonderful, pleasant, joyous road of addiction. And I had to sit down with them at separate times because, once again, our Room 9 budget does not allow us to have more than two microphones hooked up at once, but that will change here in the future. But I hope you guys really enjoy this. It was good to sit down with them, although it was a little more brief than I wanted it to be. It was still very full, for lack of a better term, with information and just, how lonely and how much of a burden recovery can be. So I hope you guys enjoy this. They also have a podcast that I think is going to really start kicking off more in the new year. But if you get on YouTube and search Jay and Ted's Excellent Recovery, you will be sure to find it there. So I hope you guys support them as you are supporting Andy and I with our projects. So I hope you guys really enjoy this. And once again, thank you for everything. Get up on YouTube again, subscribe to Room 9, give us some support, as well as Jay and Ted's Excellent Recovery. All right, thank you. Sound waves are looking good from here. They're looking sexy.
All right. Sexy sound waves. Nothing like it.
We are good. Another Room 9 action going on here. And, sitting down with Jason.
Yeah, it's nice to be here, Sean. And, of course, we got Ted with me. Jay and Ted's Excellent Recovery, a podcast of our own. And we got, hooked by a mutual friend of ours. And I'm like, Dustin tags me in this, and I see Room 9 podcasts about, recovery and stuff. I'm like, these sons of, they're taking my idea, at first. But no, it's actually nice to be here. And, I think, meeting you and some of the ideas we've talked about, off air, it's going to come together nicely. I think we'll be able to help each other, broaden this message that needs to be out there.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Collaborating with other people, because like you said, it's been a total no recovery podcasts are out there.
No, there isn't. And the main thing is we play well with others. Ted's like that. He's the same way. And anybody that I see that has passion about their recovery, which I can tell by you, just us talking in the car from the falls up here, was very serious about his recovery. We talked about, some of the different maintenance and things like that, us addicts in recovery go through. But let's go back to where it all started for me, which was a teenager, 12, 13 years old. And, I was a drinker, started drinking. I'm from Ogdensburg, New York, which is up on the Canadian border. So I'm practically Canadian.
Practically.
And we drank to celebrate. We drank when we lost games. It was just, that's what we did. It was a small town. And then it went from drinking to, smoking pot and that stuff. And then I just took off. I mean, cocaine, I was talking to you about, going, this is a story. This is my mother. This is a girlfriend, Casey, I was with. She's an ex now. She met my mother for the first time, and my mom, and I was like, because she was in recovery too, which guys don't, that's the true. Do not hook up with the girls in rehab. It just doesn't.
That never ends well.
It doesn't end well. I mean, and it started, innocently enough. It was great, but anyways, the story was. I said to my mother, tell Casey about, the, $200,000 I went through on Nani. That was my grandma, on Nani's money. And she said, Jason, it was over $400,000. So, so as an addict, I didn't even really know what I was, getting into. I'm sitting there telling the story, but I didn't even know the story because it was even more than I had even, so. But it wasn't until heroin that it really it took me out quick.
A shit.
It took me out quick.
Heroin has a way of doing that to people.
It does. It really does. I had an overdose November 5th of 2017, where I was rushed to St. Joseph's Hospital after I was Narcaned, and they brought me back. And then sometime in the middle of the night, my heart stopped again, and I was gone for almost 4 minutes. And I always tell people, 4 minutes is a long time.
To not be alive.
Yeah,
yes.
that's what I mean. Like you put a bag of popcorn in the microwave, and it's like 2 minutes and 50 seconds. You're standing around there going, "Is this thing going to get done? Come on!" You want to. So I was gone for nearly 4 minutes, and the doctor came in the next morning. I woke up, I had burn marks on my chest and like singed chest hair and stuff, and yeah, for the ladies out there, I had a little hair. But anyway. So the doctor said to me, he said, if you don't believe in something, you better start to believe, because for all intents and purposes, your mother should be down here right now deciding whether or not to pull the plug on you, So it was like, you know what? Maybe I have a little bit of a problem here,
Just maybe.
Yeah. So, but, I've started, and this is the first time, and I don't know about you guys, I know Ted, he's tried a few times, but I don't know about you in recovery. And this is the first time I fully surrendered, because old Jason was like, hey man, 28 days, I feel great. Let's get back at it.
And how you got your tolerance down, you got this a little bit.
Right.
And you're good to go.
Now it's like, no, I went to Detox, and then I went to Stutzman, and then I went to Kaz Manor, and now I'm in Niagara Falls at a place called Sundrum Manor. And, it's been really, it's been a good go at it right now.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you is, how old are you now?
I am 46.
46, and you started at what age, did you say?
I started when I was 12 years old, 13 years old.
Yeah,
so it's like you step inside the door of addiction at 13, and when you come back out, you're 46.
46, and it's like a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
That goes, because it's funny, because you hear a lot of people that I've talked to I know people who have overdosed, almost died, and walked out of the friggin' hospital and went and just started using again.
Oh yeah.
And it's insane. And I did a podcast earlier with this girl I went to high school with, and she's not an addict herself. Her dad is.
Right.
And we talked about that a lot, but she was asking me some stuff, and it's like, what is rock bottom? Like, for some people, rock bottom, it's just different for everybody. And like some people who overdose and almost die still don't.
Right.
I mean, it still might not be a rock bottom.
Sadly, that wasn't my last time. I had a sponsor one time tell me that rock bottom is when you put the shovel down. Stop digging. Just put the shovel down. But everybody's rock bottom is different. And for some reason, I got really emotional. November 21st was my daughter, Rhea Sky. It was her 10th birthday. Double digits, Dad. That's what she said. Double digits.
Oh, yeah.
And I found myself in tears most of that night. My feelings, you get your feelings back. That's good, but you also get your feelings back. That's bad,
Absolutely.
And I really believe that was my rock bottom. I was like, man, I've missed so much of these beautiful children's lives, even before, the rehabs and all that kind of stuff. Because when I was in active addiction, I was there. I was still, I was the father. I was, coaching the T-ball teams and stuff. But it was always like, let's rush, get everything done for the night, baths and all this, get the kids to bed. You got your wife at the time. She's, watching TV and stuff. And then you're enthralled with this addiction. You know what I mean? And it just takes you over.
Every thought, that's one thing I think about. It makes me sick to my stomach is towards the end when it's not fun anymore.
No.
Your addiction is terrible. And that's all you do is eat, breathe, sleep. The next second
one.
That's it. As you're getting high, you're thinking about how you're going to get high when you're not high anymore.
Right.
I mean, literally, that's it. And so many people do not understand the grasp of it.
Well, my parents had cut me off from all funds. Everybody had turned their back on me. This is a guy that I was a prominent radio DJ. I was a DJ in other aspects and all over, and it was pretty well known. I was signing autographs, which I'm no one, but still somebody must have thought something, to this guy that nobody wanted to be around anymore. My family didn't want to be around me. I was taking like DVDs and selling them just to get like bottles, and you know what I mean.
We're so creative.
No, that's what I'm saying.
We need to get high. It's nuts.
It's like and I think that the people at the video store, I think like they even got to the point where like they were calling people and they're like, I think he's not well again. He's like, this is like the third time he's tried to sell Gilligan's Island, the second series, or something.
Walking into the pawn shop, I remember times like that. Walking into the pawn shop, pretending I'm talking to my mom about my grandma, air quotes, who just died.
Yeah.
And yeah, Mom, I'll try to see what I can get for this ring here and all that. The stories we come up with, it's incredible.
Lavish. And it's not so much even the stories, but that you start to believe them.
That is,
that's the part where it gets really, it's delusional. It's when you start to actually believe those stories. You know what I mean? You start to say to yourself, did I do that? I did that? Like, when I sit there and tell you about, getting taken by an ambulance to Syracuse, I'm like, I got brought back, and then I lost a heartbeat again, and I'm like, that happened? And then you got to remember that when they found you, you were blue and you were naked. I don't know why I took all my clothes off.
I'm going to overdose. I'm going to take my clothes off first.
But what I'm saying is, like, that happened, and that's like, I think myself, like, oh my God, like, I got to get better. But what about these poor people that found me? That's got to be traumatizing. Like, there's overweight, naked white man turning blue on our floor. I just met these people on the weekend. Like, I just come into town, and so.
Where were you visiting somebody?
Yeah, I'd come in from Indiana. I was out there in Fort Wayne, and I came into Syracuse, and my friend Pam picked me up, and she was nice enough to let me stay with the friends of hers.
Oh man!
And first impression,
That's quite the first impression.
Yeah. There's yeah. Anyway, again, with me, it's the pain and the suffering got to be so great, and I believe that because I come from a family of addicts. I mean, some are taking care of the problem, some aren't. I had this talk with my mother the other day, and she was like, when is it enough? Like, 'cause she's worried about other family members right now, and how can you tell them? And I'm like, Mom, they won't be ready until they are ready. It's got to be them. They have to want it. I had to want it. And I couldn't say, like, I can't tell you how many times I went to rehab where I was like, I'm going to do this to save my marriage, or I'm going to do this for my children.
And it doesn't work.
It does not work. Because this thing that has a hold of us, and I there is an age old debate: is it a disease or isn't it? It is a disease. Okay, it's a disease of the mind. I mean, we do. The only time that we have, the slogan back in the 80s, what was it? Just say no. Yeah, great slogan.
Yeah.
Great slogan.
That worked out really well.
Yeah, great slogan for somebody that's never tried drugs. Just say no the first time.
Yes. Yep.
But once you've already on that ride,
once you've gotten a tast of it,
you're not getting off.
You don't know what the hell no means.
Yeah, like Ozzy Osbourne one time said, it's a grabby little drug. It'll grab a hold of you. It'll grab a hold of you. So, but I mean, I'm blessed in my life right now, and I've been in bigger platforms, and I've had a larger audience and voice and this and that, and I'm happier right now because of what I'm doing and what my voice stands for. For addicts in recovery, for people with mental health like depression, anxiety. A lot of people don't have that voice, so it's like if I have a platform and I can help people and get the word out and the message, because hey, I like to talk, so why not talk and use it to the good, to the good of, what's going on,
Yeah, that's, I think, the beauty of it. And that's why I'm looking forward to doing some collaborating with your guys' podcast. What's it, Jay and Ted?
Jay and Ted's Excellent Recovery. And you can find it on YouTube right now. And I'm going to let, Ted's going to get a chance here to talk to. I want him to, because Ted's got a fascinating story. It's actually, and that's the thing about us addicts in recovery, we're kind of like snowflakes. There's no one that's this, we all have a little different little tinge to it, and, Ted, he actually won me over. We were roommates, and we started talking, and Ted's like a musician, and he's like rubbed elbows. He's got like really, really close friends with the guys from Third Eye Blind. And, but then like his story, it makes you want to cry at times because he was seriously begging and crying for help, and he didn't have anyone there. And that's it. And, you probably have been in the same spot, and I have. But when you hear it from somebody that you get close to, you're like, damn, man, Ted, that sucked, But, so I think as we progress in this in the podcast world, we're going to try to switch over to video, do some video. First of the year we're looking at. And we'll see, but I'd love to definitely do some stuff with Room 9 with you guys. And I'm just sorry. Was it Andy?
Andy, yeah,
I'm just sorry Andy couldn't be here today. You're missing
he's a bum.
Big show, Andy. You're missing a big show.
He's just discovered a woman about 2 weeks ago that he's been hanging out with a lot.
Yeah.
So I've been busting his chops for that.
Okay.
But he's been doing that whole thing. But
little ice.
And that's why ice. That's right.
Oh man,
that's why I'm looking forward to getting a little soundboard here in the near future. So even all four of us sitting down would be awesome.
That would be awesome. And, you won me over. Well, first of all, you're a musician too. So, and, my son being a musician and me being a DJ and, Ted being a musician. So we had that little connect right there with the music. But then I walk in and I see Nightmare Before Christmas. I sold.
Sold?
I mean, this guy's
I
a
gotcha.
winner. And that's like one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm a Burton fanatic. I love all his stuff.
Yeah, I had so many statues. I had a couple 3-foot statues. I had so many of them that I sold.
Yeah, it's just a great.
It was when I was after I sold some instruments and got rid of some more, some stuff like that, and all my jewelry was gone.
Oh yeah,
I was on let go real quick trying to get rid of those, and it's one of those things you look back and it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, what was I thinking?
Why did I
really
do this?
Wasn't thinking. That's the thing, Well, that's the other thing about addiction is, at some point,
Blinders.
In some point, it just absolutely engulfs everything about us. It's no longer Jason or Sean or Ted. It's a form of us. It leaves us our shell, but it's just this raving maniac of a person, because you don't do anything that you would do normally.
No, it's amazing the people that I've met, even in jail.
Right.
That when they're sober, they're completely these amazing, beautiful, awesome people. I always kind of use the analogy of like Venom and the symbiote of what addiction is like, because it gets on you and it's almost like we're talking. It's like, we are going to get heroin.
Yes, yeah.
And you just do the most crazy things. I mean, the last time I broke into my girlfriend's house.
See, you didn't say the first time. You said the last time.
The last time.
The last time you did it,
I was crying as I was going in there. I did not want to do it. And I was explaining to my friend Natalie about her dad, because she's like, how come he just can't stop? Like, I don't understand it. This is he's lost his wife now. He's lost his 2 daughters. Don't want nothing to do with him. We don't want nothing to do with him.
Right.
And I was like, you can't. It's so hard to explain to somebody who hasn't felt that.
Yeah, you have to, to feel some of the feelings that I've had, like, when you sleep outdoors for a night under a bridge, or a rock is your pillow, or things like that.
Like trap house.
People don't. It's not for everyone. You know what I mean? It's like doing cocaine to your nosebleeds. It's not for everybody. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's an acquired taste. But you have to actually have been there to explain the hurt or the heartache that you go through, like I went through. I'll keep it with me, that I went through, because like I said, when you look at people that love you more than you love yourself, and they want you well, and you still can't get it right until the point where they don't even want you around anymore. That, I had my parents like sending, when I was with this girl in Syracuse, the one I was telling you about, the Casey, they were like sending me money each month just for me to stay away. Just don't come home.
Just don't even come and talk to us.
Don't come home. Just here's money.
Yeah, that's powerful.
It's sad, and it's like, now I can honestly sit and I can talk to my mother, and we have good talks. And
doesn't carry her purse to the bathroom.
No, yeah. It's honest, and that's a true story too. When I was staying there for a while, she used to like take her vodka up to bed with her. Like up the stairs they went with it, the bottle. Like, your parents have to take that stuff and hide it on you. Like, how insane does that sound right now?
Got to wear their purse around the house.
Right.
Yeah, it's nuts.
When I was at my lowest with the drinking and that, I was taking vodka and putting it into water bottles and hiding it around my town, and like telling her, like, I'll go to the store. I'm going to the store.
Shit.
And I drive
That's
down
clever. I like that.
and like stick my hand into a bush like that. Hey, that's not, I mean, that's like logical. Like, there's, what's wrong with that? Somebody else that's watching me do that's going, what is this crazy motherfucker doing? You know what I mean? It's absolutely insane. But to be there and to know that, man, I got to have that drink, or I got to have that next hit, or because, alcohol, like heroin, like Klonopin, like any of those types of drugs, you really get sick. If you don't have it, you get sick, you shake, the restless leg syndrome, the sweats, the puking, the shitting, all of it, and yet all those physical withdrawals that we go through doesn't even touch to the mental stuff that goes on.
The mental warfare.
What are they going on? Like, what's my dad? Is my dad okay? What are they thinking? Is he all right? And it breaks my heart. I was talking to my son the other night, and I said he was going to his indoor soccer game, And I said, hey, good luck, buddy. You know, I said, I hope you win. And he's like, oh, yeah. He's like, you know, I'm just glad we made it to the championship, even if we don't win. I said, well, that's good. You know, I said, but go in there and try to win and stuff. And I said, I'm sad I can't be there. And he goes, you're getting better. It breaks your heart. You know what I mean? You're getting better, you know? Shouldn't have to be that way. He shouldn't have to know that as a, 11-year-old, 12-year-old boy, you know, my dad's got to get better. You know what I mean?
But I mean, that in itself, though, is encouragement.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It definitely is.
I mean, yeah, it most definitely is. I've kind of, one thing I've had to learn to do myself is really stick with this saying of compare myself to who I was yesterday, not to who somebody else is today.
Right.
Which is huge because we get these grandiose ideas of who we should be, what society says we should be, where we should be, and it totally beats you down. I mean, it makes you feel like shit, like I'm pathetic. I'm 33. Right. I don't even have a bank account right now. I use my mommy and daddy's car, to come get you guys to go do this, and it makes you feel like crap. But then I think about who I was 7 months ago.
Wow.
And it's unbelievable.
My mother said the same thing to me the other day. Yeah. And, and I heard a good thing the other day with Ben, who's a guy, an older gentleman up at the manor. He comes in and teaches some classes, and he's like, there was a pool table. And he's like, you take this pool table and you move it 1 inch every day. And after a year's time, it's been moved 30 feet. Think about that. You know what I mean? Just an inch a day. So as long as we're getting a little bit better every day, we're going to get there. You know what I mean? It's just, I'm at the point in my life where I can't take too many steps backwards anymore. You know what I mean?
No. And I think that comes along with hitting your rock bottom.
Yeah.
You're done walking backwards.
Yeah, it feels good. And like you said, if the best it gets tonight is me to go home and have like a pork chop and watch like Family Guy or something, I'm good with that tonight.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? I'm not sitting there going, hey, where am I going to get this next one? Who am I going to rip off? Who am I going to hurt? Who am I going to disappoint by not showing up somewhere? You know what I mean? Tonight, I'm accounted for. I'm going to have a roof over my head tonight. I'm going to have a full belly when I go to bed, and it's not that bad of a life. It really isn't.
No, it is not.
We're getting better, we really are. So why don't you want to talk a little bit there, Ted?
Throw the old Ted up on there?
Yeah, why don't we'll switch spots here. Why don't you go over here?
Great.
All right, Ted. So, let me know a little bit. What's your story?
Sure. Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't start out all that young. It really kind of, for me, started a little bit in high school. My dad is a doctor, and, it was kind of normal for him to bring home stuff from the hospital. So there'd be excessive amounts of cough medicine, like codeine, that sort of thing. And, he didn't really realize I was kind of digging into the medicine cabinet a bit and kind of testing these things out. And, I kind of found this is a great relief for anxiety. Makes the depression better. I just kind of dabbled in it, and, it was my little secret. I didn't tell anybody.
How old were you now at this point?
I was probably 16.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And, it kind of came and went. It was more of an experimental phase, but it definitely laid the foundation that there is something out there that will relieve that feeling of being me. So it stuck with me. When I got to college, I made some friends with older people, and they drank off the campus. And, by virtue of being friends with them, I mean, they introduced me to alcohol my second semester of my freshman year. And I kind of had that moment oh my God, I love this. I really, really love this. And this solves all of my problems, and this makes everything better. And I was also the guy who would go to the party and then be a small group of people, and they'd all have 1 or 2 beers and be fine, a little bit, tipsy. I'd be sneaking back to the kitchen, figuring out what was in their liquor cabinet, and again, it was my little secret. I just assumed I needed more to feel better than everybody else, or I like to have more fun than everybody else. And, it was for me, this tremendous relief of all the anxieties of being away from home for school and college and all the pressure. And, I knew that I had a family history, but for me, it was I'm different. I'm not like my uncles. I'm not
I can do this.
Yeah,
I can control this one.
I'm good. I really love this, but I'm good. It's nothing bad's going to happen. And there were just no consequences really early on. Ended up getting into a serious relationship, got really serious about school, got into graduate school for counseling, got into a PhD program, and the drinking, kind of came and went in college.
So again, there's no consequences, not a whole lot of like, aha moments, whereas like that, I can pinpoint it, that being the beginning of the addiction. It was just like, obviously this, could become problematic, given the right circumstances. So it wasn't until graduate school when my wife and I had our first son and he didn't sleep at all that I went to a family practice doctor and they prescribed me Ativan for the first time. And it was when they prescribed it to me, it was under sort of the guise like, okay, this is a temporary solution. And, I was a PhD student studying counseling, so I had taken pharmacology. I knew about, benzos. My initial reaction was like, no, I don't want to do this. Like, I'm not going to take it. And she's like, well, it's just going to be a short-lived thing. And so I was like, all right. So I went on it. And before I really knew what I was doing, I couldn't get off of it. Like, I just couldn't stop. Like, there was just no stopping it. And she kept upping the dosage higher and higher. And I ended up having to drop out of the PhD program. I ended up having to basically, I was useless, like essentially completely useless. My wife had no idea what was going on with me. She knew I was going through like the anxiety, depression. We kind of thought it was all like life circumstances. It wasn't that I was hooked on this pill. Like that wasn't what it was. It was everything else.
It was everything else, yeah.
Right. And we were young, didn't really know what we were talking about. And I avoided going to a counselor. I avoided treatment because in my mind, it was all mental health. In my mind, it was like, well, I know psychology. I can figure this out. Like if I could think about it enough or come up with a solution with my dad, like I'll get myself out of this. It'll be fine. And it never really got fine. Like the real problem was never solved. We tried like natural medicine to try to get me off of it. We tried switching medications, going to specialists, going to psychiatrists, and it was like, just nothing worked. And everybody kind of threw up their hands and was like, all right, like we don't know what to do. So it was kind of at that point that I decided that I was going to, basically run my own life. I was going to do it my way. And whatever I had to do to never feel that way again, I was going to do. So that translated to, starting to order tramadol online, got addicted to tramadol, always kind of kept drinking around, never really stopped drinking. Would go on and off of benzos, mostly Klonopin, and ended up in chiropractic school where like I thought again, there's going to be a solution to my problem, like either relocating, trying a different schooling program, trying a different area of the country. It was just there's always some solution that I was going to come up with that was going to end up solving this problem. And it was never about like cutting out the drugs. Like it was always, that was never to me. And honestly, like if you had asked me straight up back then, I would have laughed at you if you'd said it was just the substance. Like I would have been like, that's just a symptom of the problem. Like I had it, the pyramid completely inverted. Like it was just completely upside down. So yeah, I ended up being put on Adderall. Like I was really the king of like manipulating doctors. Like I went from doctor to doctor to doctor. And it was like, if you didn't have the recipe I wanted, then I'd come up with some reason why I needed to leave your practice.
Yeah. How did you convince a doctor to give you Adderall?
Actually I didn't. She approached me about it.
Really?
Yeah. I went into the office. I was in chiro school here at DUville in Buffalo. And, I went in trying to score more Klonopin. And she's like, I don't think that's your issue. She's like, I think you have ADHD. And I was like, all right. I was like,
oh my gosh.
Because I knew it was coming. Like I knew there was something else that I was going to get to try. So she's like, oh, I take Adderall. It's fine. She was like an Italian doctor who was from Italy. Like she hadn't been in the States too long. I always have this weird, unfortunate luck with doctors, but mostly because I just abuse them. Never mind. Yeah, so she put me on 90 milligrams of Adderall. And yeah, and so the very first time I ever took it, I went to a Counting Crows show.
Nice.
And I was like, and I don't remember who the opening band was, but they were like, under normal circumstances, I would have hated it. But I was like telling everybody around me, like, this is the greatest thing I ever heard.
I
love this. And so like for me, I was like, okay, I found another piece of my puzzle, and it helped me study. It helped me manage, things until it didn't. And until I started abusing it, like it did everything else. Like I have no ability to control myself. That's my story, is anything I put in my body, like I can't take prescriptions according to prescription. I just can't. I can't. If it alters my brain at all, I'm done. And so the Adderall took off, ended up having to drop out of chiro school as well. So now we move from Buffalo back to Nebraska where my parents live. And it's like 2009. The economy is pretty bad. And, I'm just a waste. We're living off of my parents' dime. I now have 2 kids. And I don't really know what to do with my future. Like, I feel like I've thrown it all away. So what would be better to do than just to continue to medicate? So that's what I did. And the drinking got out of control. Finally to the point where my parents were like, you need to go to rehab. Like, this is a thing. Like,
And you were living with them at that time?
no, they were footing the bill for a duplex we were living in. Yeah. So, I mean, it was, yeah. I mean, there was no progress being made in any form in our life. And, prior to all this stuff happening, when I was in undergrad and the beginning of grad school, pretty much everything that I did, I was successful at, like everything. And when I got, once the drugs started, it was like I couldn't do anything right. Nothing was ever working. And I instead of realizing what it was, I just, you blame everything. You blamed life. I blamed relationships. I blamed, the economy. I wanted to blame everything.
Everything but the substance.
Yeah. So I ended up going to rehab at this private place in Iowa. It was my family footed the bill and did really well there. I mean, but they got me off the drugs. They cleared my head up, but there was no sense of actual recovery. It's a choice-based program. So they basically, the whole theory behind it was that addiction is not a disease, that it's a choice. And I bought that like hook, line, and sinker because I wanted to be cured. I wanted to tell my family I was cured. I just didn't, I didn't want to ever have to deal with it again. Like, I was like, okay, I did treatment. Now I'm done. And my family bought it. I bought it. And I actually bought it to the point where they offered me a job to be a counselor there because my background's in counseling. And I was like, okay, sure. So I ended up working at this rehab. And those of us who know recovery know that if you actually don't fix the real problems, like
it grows back a lot.
There's absolutely, yeah, it's just going to come back tenfold. And it did. And I mean, I was good for a while, but I was never happy. I was only happy to have a job, and I was only happy to basically have everybody off my back. Like, inside, I was pretty miserable. And it just, when you're working in a job as a counselor, working with people with addictions, if you don't have your shit together, you take that stuff home with you. I had clients who killed themselves. I had all kinds of stuff happen, and it was like I just couldn't handle any of it. So one thing led to another, and I started abusing gabapentin because that wouldn't show up on a drug test. Yep. And I would take like enough to like sedate a horse, basically. Yeah.
Holy shit.
And then of course the gabapentin led back to, rationalizing the Klonopin, went back to, taking Adderall again. And my clients figured it out. Like, they were pretty smart, as we are.
Is that how you ended up getting everything coming out? Was with your clients, or?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I was so good at manipulating my wife at the time that she would just take my word for it that I was fine. I mean, she definitely there was warning signs left and right, and I think probably deep down she knew. And
she just didn't want to face it. Yeah.
I don't think she wanted to upset me. You live in denial for such a long time too. But so my clients figured it out, and I got called in to my supervisors, and they knew what was up. I denied it. I was like, I have, I can't remember the excuse I came up with. It was ridiculous. But it's like, you just get so used to lying about everything that,
You lie to somebody about your favorite cereal and you don't even like that cereal.
Right.
It gets so bad.
Just do it. I guess that's what you do. So, obviously that whole experience didn't really solve anything for me. It gave me some good experience in the field, but we ended up having to move back to Lincoln, Nebraska, and ended up living there for the next 5 years and basically just surviving every day. I went back to the old pattern of, manipulating a doctor, getting my script, running out in about 10 days, and then drinking, and it was just over and over and over. And I had some really good jobs. I had some really nice, careers, as far as options go. And I just, couldn't maintain anything. Like, I couldn't keep up. I couldn't make it into work. And my personal life was falling apart. I stopped taking care of myself almost entirely. Basically, I was like a hermit, and the rest of my family was like moving on without me. So, yeah. So as time went on, the drinking got really, really bad, and I started to unravel. And my wife was like, "I got to go." She's like, "I'm leaving." And so
And you had a kid at the time? How many kids do you have?
Oh, at this time we had 5.
5. Holy shit.
When
okay.
So during this whole time, we're still having children, and, basically both of us just living in denial and thinking, it was always that, you guys can identify with this, is the concept of, all right, next month it's going to be better because Ted's going to go to the doctor and he's going to follow the prescription and everything's going to be fine. It was like, you live like that, the 12 months out of a year, each month thinking this is going to be the one that's going to change it.
Next week I'll get this under control.
Right. And then it just obviously just something always happens. And there's, and I still hadn't really faced any major consequences in terms of like external, like internally I was dying, but there was nothing to get me to stop, and when she said we were pregnant with our 6th, she said, "I'm leaving. I got to go to Buffalo." And that, that was a changing moment for me, but I still wasn't ready.
So what kind of brought you to the point of wanting to dig into the actual roots of your problem? Right.
So she left with the kids, and I followed her out here to Buffalo, and ended up basically in a situation where, I lived in this 1-bedroom apartment. Well, I can't even say I lived there. I was staying there for like 5 days before I got evicted, and they found me on the floor. Crisis services basically came to my door, and they peeled me off the floor, took me to ECMC. And, I woke up with a bunch of doctors standing over me, and they "Where did you get all these prescriptions from? Where are you from? Are you from?"
They didn't know anything about you.
They found all the prescriptions, and they realized that I had come from Nebraska, and they didn't know why I was there. And I couldn't remember what had happened the past week and a half. I drank so much that I literally couldn't remember. And they're like, "Well, we're not going to give you any more." And if anybody's ever tried to come off of Klonopin or any benzo cold turkey, it doesn't number on you. I was already so sick mentally and physically to begin with. They're like, "Sorry, good luck." And I was evicted from that apartment. So
that shit's crazy to me that they could just be like, "All right, we're not giving you any more."
Yeah.
And no help, no setup for any kind of help, and just good luck.
Well, they did try to set up like an outpatient counseling thing for me, but I couldn't even function enough to drive a car.
Yeah, okay.
So people don't realize that when you come off of benzos, especially after being on them for 10 years, you can't you can't do anything, let alone brush your teeth, tie your shoes. It's just nothing.
Yeah, describe that a little bit to me, because I've never gotten into the benzos. Yeah. I mean, I've seen some people come off of it.
Yeah, I mean, what it does for you initially is it's a great anxiety relief, but what it really is like Jack Daniels in a pill. I mean, and by the time, you try to come off of it, it's like Jason was describing. I mean, you have all the physiological responses, you go through the horrible sweating and everything else, the sleepless nights, but it's the mental torture. Anybody who's ever dealt with anxiety, imagine something in your life that you had so severe anxiety about that it just wrecked everything else, and imagine multiplying that by 100. That's what a withdrawal is like. So it's you literally I literally thought the world was ending. That was you could have not convinced me otherwise. For me, it was this is it. And it was and I went through that once a month basically, over and over and over. So when they discharged me from the hospital, I had no place to live, so I ended up staying in a Motel 6, and didn't have the drugs to abuse anymore. So what did I do? I mean, what any good addict does, I drank. It's the one thing I knew I could do. Mm-hmm. So I literally spent my days driving back and forth to this gas station because it was the only place I could actually I couldn't function enough to drive anything farther. I didn't even bother with a liquor store. So I'd end up at this gas station where I got those 4 Locos.
Oh my gosh.
And I would buy basically as many as they would sell me, and they just would look at me like, "Dude, you need some help." And I basically did that for 2 months and lived in this motel.
Holy shit.
And stopped talking to my family. I lost everything basically. I lost my cell phone. I lost most of my clothes. I had 1 pair of clothes I wore. and I had no razor, I had no toothbrush. Like, this is what I did for 2 months. And
what was your source of income? How did you get the money to get the Four Locos?
Yeah, I had a couple family friends that were still sending me money to Walmart, and I didn't tell them what it was for. You know, they didn't know the situation, but you know, I justified it in such like, this is the only way I can survive. Like, in my mind, there was no other way other than to do this. Like, I could not exist in that motel. I could not get myself out of the situation without alcohol. Like, that was the only way I could survive. So I drank and drank and drank. And every day I woke up really, really pissed. I woke up. Like, I was hoping every day that I wouldn't wake up. Like, that was the goal, basically. So got ferried back and forth to ECMC probably like 12 times.
Damn.
And got thrown in the psych ward. You know, all the fun things that go along with, like, you know, when the issue really is substance abuse, but they're treating it as mental health. Mm-hmm. And you're like, wait, no, this isn't okay. Now you're back in CPAP, which is the emergency room at ECMC, which is just a terrible place to be. And finally, at the end of October of 2017, there was a nurse who was like, do you want some real help? I was in the emergency room, and she was actually like, you need, you know, she was, the other nurse had told me, oh, we're not going to help you with these DTs at all because you keep coming here and we're giving you Ativan every time. And we know why you keep coming back. She's like, we'll do a real medical detox where we have a rehab here in the hospital. And this is the first time I heard of it. Like, I didn't know there was a rehab in the hospital. I had no idea. And I said, yeah. I'm like, yes, please. Like, I was begging, you know, her, and that started it. So that was, for me, I had to lose everything, but I really had to get pushed almost to the point of like death before I was willing to give in. Like, I'm one of those people who had to have every other option exhausted. Like, losing my wife wasn't enough. Losing our 6 kids wasn't enough. Literally losing all of our belongings wasn't enough. Like, it took everything. Like, I had to be broken before I was willing to change. And that's, for a lot of people, it's like, why did it take that many things? And it's like, if I knew that, I would have,
it wouldn't have taken that long.
Yeah. So that, you know, that was the point where things had to change. And I mean, literally had to change. So.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, talk about isolation and being alone in a Motel 6. That's a pretty unbelievable story, man.
Yeah. I mean, you guys remember when the Vegas shooting happened?
Mm-hmm.
I literally was so out of it. I thought that was happening right outside my hotel room.
Jesus Christ.
Like, I was convinced this is what was going on.
We laugh about it now, but it's such, I mean, so many people have gone through so many fucked up things.
Yeah. It's amazing to me that the people at the front desk didn't, I mean, I really want to go back there and thank them, because like, they didn't have to call 911 every time. You know what I mean? Like, I vaguely remember stumbling down to the lobby and asking them, like, I need to go back to the hospital again. And they'd be like, again? You know, like, I was just their resident issue. Like, they didn't know what to do with me. You know? Yeah. So when you finally do get into treatment, it's like, and you've lost everything, and you can finally take a shower, and you can finally have some clean clothes. Like, you start to
brush
realize,
your teeth.
Right? You start to realize the blessings that are in life, and just have like the little things, and just having food to eat. I mean, I didn't eat a meal for like 2 months.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I literally lived off Four Locos. Like, that was my diet. So
that's nuts. And then, I think I was 6'4", 167 pounds, I think, at one point when I went into jail. And it's unbelievable. Even there, you kind of realize you come to that mental road. And that's kind of where I was laying in jail. It's like, I'm going to keep going down this path, and I'm going to literally lose everything. I'm going to be under a bridge, you know, maybe at one point probably die and kill myself. Or I can take this other road where I can just buckle down and I can pick my head up, get out of this self-pity, and fight. Yeah. And I can do this, and I can learn how to be positive. For me, the biggest thing for me was learning how to love myself, forgive myself, and accept myself. I knew if I didn't do any of that, there was fixing nothing. I wasn't fixing anything else.
Right. And I think for me, it was just the realization that you got 2 choices. Like, either that's gonna be you for the rest of your life, and your life is not gonna last that long, or you can try this other thing that people have been saying, you know, that you've dismissed, that you know too much about, that you already were a counselor, you know. this level of stubbornness within me finally left. Like, it was like finally, like, I just was like, all right, I've had enough. And I had one of those moments in the hospital where I was like, I'd never really like been like, I'm willing to like have my will be taken away from me. But at that point I was like, you've got, like, you know, higher power, whoever you are, like, you've got this, because I can't do it anymore. And that's when things started to change. That's
a beautiful thing. I've struggled with the higher power thing.
Yeah, no,
that's something I do. But it's insane to hear you, you know, educated in the counseling and the therapy stuff and having all this, and still. And I've always tell people the psyche is one of the most powerful effing things I can know, because we can convince ourselves of things that are not even remotely close to being true.
Well, and that's, you know, that's what I found in the fellowship of, you know, I do AA, but, you know, I have to believe in a God of some sort, because obviously something happened that I couldn't do for myself. Like, you know, doctors couldn't do it for me. My spouse couldn't do it for me. My kids couldn't do it for me. You know, becoming basically destitute didn't do it for me. Like, something had to take me out of that. And, you know, that's where my faith has sort of started over again. So, you know, with the fellowship, you know, just that God's doing for me what I couldn't do for myself is actually ringing true, you know.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. That's something I'm plugging forward to myself, but it's been a pretty good ride, gentlemen. Yeah. Sitting here.
I was just going to add, you can turn this, I don't even need the headphones. No, I was just going to tell you, you know, it's great that you had us on the show. And as we continue to grow, you know, with our podcast, we'd like to do some collaborating with you. I really think the bottom line is, we could, you know, touch a lot of people with our message. And I don't know about you guys, but if we could save one life or one family from having to go through what my family had to go through with me, it would all be worth it. It would all be worth it. So,
absolutely.
Thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it too, gentlemen. Thank you for coming on the old Room 9, and there'll be plenty more of these episodes to come.